You're listening to Podcasting for Experts, with honest conversations about using podcasting as a tool to grow your reach, increase your audience, make a positive impact on the world, and most importantly, to get paid for your efforts. I'm your host, Jess, and we are Pristine Podcasts. Let's talk podcasting. Hey, and welcome back. This is Jess, co-founder at Pristine Podcast, and this is season 2, episode 5. And in today's episode, I want to dive into the basics of getting a team on board to help with your show. So we're going to talk about when is the right time for you to get some help, who should you get on board first, and what do you need to pay close attention to when choosing and then onboarding your team members. You might be thinking right now that you are nowhere near getting help on board yet, so there's no point for you to listen to this, but I still would encourage you to listen anyways, because we're going to do an exercise that I think, even if you're nowhere near getting help yet, is very useful for you to do anyways. By the time that you're done with this episode, you will know how to get clear on what your dream team looks like, how much it takes to actually hand the task that you struggle with off to someone else, how you can decide what to start outsourcing first, and how you can find the right people for you. I've worked online as a service provider for almost 6 years now, and I've worked with a whole host of different clients, those that are just getting started, as well as those who are now making more than 7 figures a year. And I've been the only support system for clients, as well as part of a team of 10 or 15 people. And I've had my own team in this time as well, actually more than one. So I've kind of learned a thing or two in this time about what works and what doesn't. The first thing that you'll want to do is to design your dream team, even if it's just in your head right now. So go grab a hot drink, get comfortable with a notebook and a pen, and let's forget reality for a minute. If you could fast forward a bit in time to a place where your show is just huge and you have everything that you think you're missing right now, money is flowing freely, you have a huge fan base, you have clients queuing up, what would your podcast dream team actually look like? Would you still be doing your own content plan, your own research, your own script writing? Would you actually be hosting your show? Would you be editing your show? Would you deal with all of the post-production? Would you be doing all of the active promotion? Where would your time be spent? And what people would you have on your team to take the rest off of your plate? So spend some time to write that down, because this is going to be really, really important. This is what you're trying to build, and it's time to start making decisions that actually bring your show in this direction. I love hosting. I don't love editing. If I had a whole team of people around me, then the brainstorming and the planning process would totally be like a collaborative in-person team event. And maybe I'd even have another host who does some of the episodes from a different perspective. Maybe I'd have clients record episodes. Right now, none of that is a thing, but in an ideal world, it would be. And that is what I should be working towards. If you don't know where you would like to go, there is no way that you can actually get there. So getting clear on what you'd love here is absolutely the first step for me. Now we will have to come back to reality. So we kind of need to scale back your dream team to the minimum viable level of support that would actually make a difference for your show. And it is totally normal that all of the things that you're thinking and dreaming of aren't possible for you yet. So don't worry about that. We're going to look at a couple of things now that will help you to establish where you could get support first. So here we want to do the things that are easy to hand off to somebody else, and the things that are going to make a big difference for your show, or things that get you so much time back that you can invest all of your time into things that are going to make a huge difference for the show. So this is all about leverage. So the first thing that we're going to do is to look at all of the things that you currently do for your show and assess which ones of those are actually useful, which are not, which are a high priority, and which are the ones that are kind of perfectly placed to get help for. A tool that you can use for this is the Eisenhower matrix. I will put a picture in the show notes, but in case you're not anywhere near your device right now, then I will talk you through how that works. You will have probably seen it at some point. So the thing that you can do is to take a piece of paper and to fold it once in half horizontally and once in half vertically so that you end up with 4 squares on your piece of paper. The top left square is the square where you're going to put all of the tasks that you do for your show right now that are important and urgent. So these are things that you just need to get done. For example, I am recording this episode, and because I was working on a few other things, I am actually a little bit tight on my timeline. So recording this episode right now is important and it's urgent. So that is a task I'm going to put in my top left box. So keep this piece of paper around on your table, and as you go through the day, every single thing that you're doing needs to be put into these boxes. So I'm going to put this task, record podcast episode, in my top left box. In the top right square, you're going to write all of the stuff that is important for your show, for your business, but it is not actually urgent. So it wouldn't matter whether you did it this month or next month. This is the kind of stuff that you just need to schedule time for in your calendar. And I'm going to tell you a lot of the game-changing activities that you are thinking of doing or that you're actively doing in your business. They fall into the important category, but they're never really urgent. So what happens is that often the top right corner is like the neglected corner. Like, hey, I really need to be having some coffee chats with some different entrepreneurs. Or, hey, I need to be sending out applications to be a guest on other people's podcast. It is important. It's going to make a huge difference for your show and your business, but it is not urgent. Nobody is saying, hey, if you haven't been on this podcast episode by next week, Tuesday, there's going to be a fine, So these tasks are often the ones that are game changers, but they don't get by far enough attention because important and urgent kind of gets in the way. So on the bottom left, you have all of the tasks that are not important for your business anyways. They could be important in other ways, but they're not important for the business or the show, but they're urgent. I'll give you an example. Your tax return, if it's kind of due next week, it is not a game-changing task for your business. It's not going to help your show to blow up. It's not going to get you loads of clients. It's not going to do anything. It's just a nuisance, administrative, annual thing that you just have to do. But if you don't do it, there's a big fine. So it is important in the sense that there is a bad consequence if you don't do it, but it isn't actually important for the growth of your business or important for the growth of your show so much. So tax returns are not important, but kind of urgent. So those are tasks that can actually very easily be handed off to other people. So 5 people need to be sent documents. Great. That's a not so important task, but it's kind of urgent because they all have deadlines. So an assistant can very easily handle those kind of things for you. And then in the bottom right, you have tasks that are neither important nor urgent. Those are tasks that actually nobody should be doing. And this box is the one that I define as being pretty crucial to your success. So what I've seen happen a lot is that lots of business owners, entrepreneurs, experts, get a VA, for example, to help them in their business. And what they do is that they give their VA work from the delete category because they don't actually trust them with the important stuff. So they're actually losing money when they get help. So the kind of stuff that falls into the not important and not urgent box are all of those things that you do in your business and for your show that get you absolutely zero results. And I'm going to take a really popular one, and that is posting on social media. You would be surprised how many business owners spend 30 hours a week posting on social media and they get absolutely zero response. Nobody leaves Facebook to go and listen to their show right now. Nobody is on Instagram scrolling mindlessly, clicking through to your profile, clicking through to the link in bio, going to find the latest episode to go listen to it. It just doesn't happen. So we spend all this time making it so top priority to create these beautiful graphics that take you hours to do, to go post them. And then if it takes you too much time, you hire a VA and you get them to do all those graphics and to post them. But at the end of the day, you're bringing 0 listeners back to your show. That is not a task that you outsource. That is a task that you stop doing. And that's where so many people go wrong. So then they hire someone and then they're like, hey, I spend $300 a month paying this person and my numbers are not growing and I have to stop doing this now and I'm just going to quit. And I'm like, right. So it is really important that you work with somebody that you trust way, way, way more so that you can give them tasks that are urgent and not important, but they do have to get done and they have to get done fast. So the person needs to be very reliable. Or you give them tasks that are important and urgent if they've earned your trust and you know that they can do it. And they can help you with the stuff that is important but not urgent, but that's really going to move the needle ahead in your business. So they can do a lot of the pre-work for you and then you jump in. Okay. So that person can help on so many things, but you have to be realistic with actually deleting tasks completely from your to-do list. Okay, so now that you have more of a picture of the work that you are actually doing for your show right now, how much of it is important and urgent, how much of it is not urgent, but it is very important to do it, I want you to really go through and circle all of those tasks that don't have to be done by you, basically. So if I'm the host of this podcast, a task that has to be done by me is to record the podcast episode. However, what doesn't have to be done by me is to research the things that I'm actually going to be talking about in the show. I could technically have someone else do that very thing. Something else that doesn't have to be done by me is to do all of the post-production stuff, Something else that doesn't have to be done by me is to reply to emails, that doesn't have to be me. So there are so many tasks that we do where we think we are like crucial to the success of this task, but really somebody else can do it and they can even do a way better job at it than we're doing right now. So look at all of those tasks that you've now circled that could potentially be done by somebody else. Is there a combination of things that you do a lot of that are bringing you results? And they could potentially be handled by one person. So if you, for example, spend a huge amount of time editing your show, and then you spend a huge amount of time writing stuff for your show, and then you spend a huge amount of time designing graphics for your show, and let's say that that is really working for you and you're getting measurable results from doing this activity for your show, then you could potentially find a person that knows how to write and knows how to design some decent looking things, or at least can work with templates that a designer has made. And you might be able to outsource way more tasks to this one person because it falls into the creative category. Whereas podcast editors, like we have this debate all the time, a lot of them are very technical and they're auditive. So they're spending the entire day listening and improving and balancing and adding music and doing those kind of things. But I would say that the majority of them that I've met are not writers or creative people. If they are very good on the creative side, I find that the technical skills on the editing are very bumpy and dodgy at the best of times. So I know that we always like to look for a unicorn that can help us with everything. And there are so many people out there who are like, I'm a one-man show and I do you editing and promo and graphics and writing and reaching out and this and that. I know I'm the kind of person that has a lot of skills, but my skills are still better in some areas than in others. So I would encourage you to hire specialists and to hire people that are better at doing the thing than you are at doing the thing. Hey, are you spending hours extra editing every other week because you forgot to do things like switching off your aircon or moving the dog outside of the house? Did you secure an amazing guest interview only to then forget to press record? Or maybe your guest forgot to press record and now you have to work with a really low quality backup recording? Do you want to batch your show and finally get ahead, but you can't for the life of you remember what's already done and what's not? Don't worry, this is really normal. There are way more steps involved in running a successful, high-quality podcast than meets the eye, and it's really easy to forget something here and there. But let's be realistic. If you really want to grow your show, you can't carry on like this. If you want to design a podcasting workflow that works, then grab our podcast workflow blueprint now. You'll get immediate access to our entire podcast workflow that we've been using with all of our clients for months. The blueprint contains a video training that explains exactly how our system works, the Trello board template that you can just plug into your account or transfer to your platform of choice, the fully customizable template episode workflows, guest email swipes, and as a bonus, the guest booking automation video training. You can check it all out and get your copy at pristinepodcast.com/blueprint. And now back to the episode. So you might be able to find someone who's like a super expert copywriter, and they can kind of also do your graphics for a bit until you have the budget to find someone else to do that, and they don't mind doing it, but you don't expect them to produce wonders kind of thing. Or you get an editing team, and maybe they can also edit your graphic templates, but they might not be able to write your show notes, for example. So be very careful with where you think you can save the most amount of time and who is the person who is best placed to take a lot of those things off of your plate. And then have a plan for who you're going to get on board next to be sure that this one person doesn't get stuck with doing all of the unicorn things because they're not a unicorn. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to get an idea of the cost. So you can't start planning for how to grow your show when you don't actually know how much service providers in the areas that you need support in will charge you. So you may want to reach out to some service providers to get a ballpark figure of pricing and just let people know in advance that you're not ready to get someone on board yet, but you're doing your finances for the next year and you have to make a budget. And guess what? If you don't know how much this costs, then how can you plan for how much you need to spend? So when you're contacting potential people, you don't want to reach out to people who could maybe do the job and do it on the cheap and do as many of the things as you possibly can. You want to reach out to people who are better at the thing than you are. They are better editors. They are better content planners. They are better social media people. They're better designers. They are better copywriters. And I know that it hurts for your ego. Like I remember the first time where I did some graphics and stuff, and then one of the amazing people on our team comes back with some other graphics being like, hey, I think you were more after something like this. And I was like, yeah, wow, they fucking look amazing. And then I was like, oh, I suck, And then I'm like, hang on a minute. Well, I don't get paid to do graphics, and I didn't learn how to do graphics, and I just did whatever I can with the skills that I have. So I am paying someone else to do this for me, and they should be doing a nicer job than I do, because otherwise I might as well do it myself, right? So realistically, just let that stuff go and look for people who charge, a reasonable amount and who produce better work than what you're going to produce. Okay, so next we have to talk about how to actually choose the service providers that you want to work with. So if you're ready to actually get the person on board, then this part is for you. So as I just said, I don't like working with people that are just good enough, I want to work with people who know what they're doing. So when I reach out to people, I want to know what their experience is. I want to know what their thoughts are on what I'm doing. I want to know how they feel about the thing that I'm going to need them to do. How do they think it should be done? I would want to tell them my goals. I would want them to let me know what their plan is to make sure that they help to make my goals happen. So I'm looking for team members. I am not looking for people who need instructions and who need to be monitored every hour of every day, because that kind of stuff, it doesn't actually end up decreasing your mental load. It actually just adds to it. So at the end of the day, if you hire 5 people, one person to write, one person to do graphics, one person to do your organization, and one person to do your editing, and you have to orchestrate their entire workday and they don't have any self-responsibility for the goals of the company or for anything. You are basically babysitting a bunch of people, and you will be spending 10 hours a day babysitting 5 people, giving them feedback, telling them to do things differently because you don't like it, and again and again and again and again. And then you're going to be burnt out after about 3 months, and nothing is going to work, and you will have wasted a whole load of money. I actually saw a TikTok from someone a while ago, and I think it was actually to do with relationships. This endless thing where the woman is like, oh, my man says, he never knows when something needs doing, so I have to keep telling him what to do every minute of every day. That is kind of the same problem. So what she was saying is that when you need your mental load lightened, which is what you're really looking for, you really need the other person to be fully responsible for the project, from coming up with the project itself, planning it through to the delivery. And that's how you're actually able to put the thing out of your mind. And there isn't any other way. So you need to give the responsibility for taking out the trash to your husband, and then you need to let him deal with when he plans to take out the trash, how he plans to take out the trash. Is the trash full? There should be no comment from you on the trash. The outcome has to be set. I want the trash to not be smelly and to be emptied every single day. Whether you do it in the mornings, at lunchtime, at night, I don't care. But the trash has to get emptied every single day. And that is now your job. You come up with it. I don't care. The end result is the trash is empty and it doesn't smell in here. Same thing for the business. So if you're going to hire somebody to write your copy, let's say, so they're just going to write your show notes and stuff like that, not, sales pages and really important stuff, but it's just show notes, these kind of things. So then the job for them has to be clearly defined, and then you have to give them the responsibility, and then you have to educate them what your publishing schedule is, and then you have to let them know that by this day, at this time, this episode has to go live here, and therefore we need your show notes by then. And then it doesn't matter if they work on it 5 days ahead, 3 days ahead, 1 day ahead, as long as they're consistently producing the quality work that you want to have by the deadline that you've given them for the rest of the team to be able to function. How they do that is entirely their decision, okay? So when people tell you online that when you're onboarding a team, you can teach anyone, you need to write them super detailed instructions and processes and this and that, honestly, they're telling you just how to manage people. But trust me, it is way easier if you just pay $10 more an hour, but the thing is actually done at the end without you having to be the person that writes the checklist, Your team members can be equally responsible in your business. So when it comes to the editing that we do for our clients, for example, our clients just specify that they need a certain end product and they need it by a certain day and time. And we worry about making that happen. We don't need micro-step instructions. Actually, this is a question that comes up so much when we have calls with new people coming to work with us. They're always like, I've spoken to some people and they want step-by-step instructions of everything that should be included in the wording of the episode and what should get cut out, and then they will edit it. What? Like, you're paying an editor to make that decision for you. That is part of the service that you are paying for. That doesn't make any sense, So that is the difference between hiring somebody that can do something for you on the cheap but doesn't use their brain versus someone who actually takes pride in their work and understands that their job comes with certain decisions that they're expected to make in the best interest of the client. And the same applies to your business. So if the goal is for your editor to produce industry standard episodes that meet your specific requirements, then it's up to your editor to choose the tool that they use, the process that they use to achieve that result, and you need to just trust them and let them do their thing. If your marketing person should work towards you getting X downloads, then they need to come up with a plan on how they're going to make that happen. And of course, they should work with you and let you know what they're planning to do. But they should be the ones to come up with a plan and then implement it. And you are just there to guide them and to monitor the progress of this whole thing. And I know that this is hard and super uncomfortable for most people, but without trust, you will not get anywhere. You can't continue to have your fingers in all of the pies as your show grows because you are holding up the whole thing. So to summarize all of that, if you want to get someone on board for your show in the near future, then consider the following. Number one, what does your dream team look like? Number 2, who are the people who can help you with certain tasks? Number 3, how much do they actually charge? And then once you've gotten started with the actual process, you're going to want to, number 1, find people that are better at this job than you are. And then number 2, you want to let them do that job. That's really, 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 really important. And then I want to give a side note on communication. I know that if you have never been in charge of people, it is very, very, very hard to say what it is that you need. And I don't know if this is just a woman thing or if men have the same issue, but I've seen it so often that people are communicating with you by giving you hints, and they'll say like, hey, have you gotten started on this yet? When do you think I could expect this thing that is not due for another 1 month? But when do you think I could have it back? So what they're thinking in their head they're doing is that they're giving me hints that they're expecting me to bulk edit their episodes ahead of time, although our agreement is that we deliver 1 episode per week on a specific date. So I now have to guess in between all of my other work that that is what you're looking for. That is not going to work. Hinting, guessing, passive aggressive, ignoring, punishing, they're not things that belong in a professional working relationship. So for you to have the most success with people, trust me, your service providers will prefer if you specify exactly what it is that you need. Like, I give people that come and work with us very specific outcomes. So I'm like, okay, so you're going to produce this. It is going to be this long. It is due every week on this day, and there's no negotiation about it. If you can't meet that deadline, I need to know 24 hours before so that I can put an alternative system in place to get this deadline met anyways, because I run a business. And I'm not going to say, oh, hey, I'm a little bit upset, about this thing. Hint, hint, hint. Hints don't work. So just be very straightforward and just say, hey, this is what I need. And then when it doesn't happen, don't freak out. Just keep calm and be like, okay, this thing obviously went wrong. Where do you think it went wrong? Okay, I see. Makes sense. Is there anything we can do to not have this go wrong again? This? Okay, good. Well, let's do it that way then, So if you communicate, and you communicate with respect as an equal, because that's what service providers are. Service providers are equal. They're not servants. They're not employees. They're business owners just like you. And they want to do their best. And they can only do their best when they get good input in, they'll have good output. And that's super, super, super important. So communication, asking, open mind, and being calm and respectful are like the key things that are going to make your working relationship way, way more smooth. Alrighty, that's it for this episode. We're going to probably be taking a deeper dive into taking people on board in the near future. So we might look at all of these individual aspects in more detail. So if you have any specific questions, let me know on social media, in the comments, wherever. And I will answer all of those questions in an upcoming episode. If you enjoyed the show, our entire team would appreciate if you leave us a review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. And maybe we'll even give someone a shout out in the near future. As always, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you for the next one. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you. If you're ready to step out of overwhelm, then don't forget to check out the podcast workflow blueprint at pristinepodcast.com/blueprint. The link is also in the show notes.